That is true to some extent, but then in the next breath they'll talk about how important it is to have dual parent households, how important it is to have a strong family, to have responsibility passed on from parent to child. And we've seen in the past that because of racial issues, that process has been severely disrupted.
The funny thing is that agreeing with all these things is when I did my research when I was younger, which arrived me to my standpoint of being a conservative, because I believed it was racist, Democrat, liberal ideologies and policies dating all the way back to the 1800s, all the way up to the 1960s, and then the purported big switch. But I think it was more so when Democrats decided to be a bit more cloak and dagger about their true opinions of black people and be more secretive and more, oh, we want to help you by doing these things and seeing them as inferior.
Doing what things?
Affirmative action, welfare, all sorts of things that eventually ruin our culture and place us where we are now.
So
but I want to get back to the history of it, because we're talking about.
Well, I just want to make sure we're clear. Giving them money hurt them, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, giving them, because if your father's out of the home, that's when we give you the money. If you're living in this housing,
so then give them the money while the dad's
rent-free.
Well, then give them the money while the dad's in the home.
If you're working this amount of hours and getting less than this amount of dollars, you're getting money from the government. Yes, it is incentivizing.
You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
I don't even know what that means in this scenario, because yes,
you want to
talk about throwing babies out with the bathwater? Margaret Sanger wanted to exterminate the black race because she thought they were weeds. So yeah, we can literally talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what Margaret Sanger, that's what Democrat policies wanted to do to my people. So that's why I feel so strongly about it, because it is these policies that date back centuries that were built off of the death and poverty of my people.
Let's take a breath.
Sure. I'm breathing.
Okay.
So a lot of babies aren't, but I am, sadly.
I don't know what that means. When I say throw the baby out with the bathwater, you want to completely get rid of welfare, okay? Or at least I don't want to put that on you, you haven't said that, but the conservative apparatus does, clearly. So giving money to a group of people does not hurt them.
I mean, sure, if you're talking about a lottery, you just say, take money. But there are strings attached to that money.
Take all the money.
There are strings attached to that money.
Give them millions. Make them all millionaires. I don't care. Giving money to black people does not hurt them.
And that has not happened, though. That has not happened.
What do you mean?
That has not happened.
It
hasn't been a reparations, it hasn't been this or that. It has been a welfare program, Great Societies Act, that was built off of the idea of, hey, we get these families split up, we get these people living here.
So then let them keep the family together and keep all the money.
I mean, I guess so, but I guarantee you there is no way that would happen.
Why would you not advocate for that? And I know that you said that it started good and then ended whatever. And I don't think that affirmative action was perfect by any measure, but we still see really, really bad inequality. So if you're going to get rid of affirmative action, what's the replacement?
Meritocracy.
There's no meritocracy in this country. You look at Elon Musk, he's destroying Twitter. There's no meritocracy. That's ridiculous.
Well, first thing I want to bounce back to is it's not a myth that there are minorities that are being put into colleges that they're not ready for. If you look at a lot of these top universities, including Harvard, Yale, etc., you're going to see a lot of minorities on academic probation because they are being placed in universities that they are not ready for. They are not cut out for that just yet. And it even just makes sense if you look at how much they have to achieve in order to get there. Asian students on average have to score 450 points higher than a black student in order to get in the same university. So if you think of the universities that have courses, et cetera, that grade on a curve, you can only have so many people with an A, so many people with a B, et cetera. So that means that the bottom percentile is going to fail. Who is most likely, just based on logic, going to be the ones failing? It's going to be the people who didn't have the credentials to get there in the first place. And then I have to bounce back to.
I want to get you on that point, because I would posit that the people who are least likely to have good outcomes in an academic setting are those who have to work 2 jobs, are those who have to drive there from home because they can't afford a dorm, are those who have to go into crippling financial debt. These are and have other stresses in their life. They can't afford a doctor, they can't afford a dentist, they can't afford anything.
I had to do
so
that too, though.
Those are the
That's
people.
not just black people. It's not just.
But it's
If we're looking at
overwhelmingly.
straight numbers, there are more white people in poverty than black people.
If you look at the raw numbers, but if you
I don't know,
actually
what are the
understand
wrong
what you're talking
numbers?
about.
No
The
number
issue
is
is poverty
wrong.
in general, though. I don't think it's like who's in poverty. It's like poverty sucks. It
Maybe we
shouldn't
should make
matter
college
who's in it.
free, and maybe we want to have
If you have a
affirmative action
program-
wouldn't be that necessary.
And it'll get even more ghetto.
If you have a program that says if you are under a certain income level, this is how we'll help you, that will overwhelmingly help black people at a far greater percentage than it will help white people.
Loans, work-study funds, and certain scholarships by filling out the free application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA form. October 1st is the date the application becomes available for the following school year.
I've heard him say he knows all the best black people, he has all the best black friends. I do support black people all the time. Yeah, but that's not like, okay, I did say I agree, but I agree in the sense that Donald Trump doesn't literally want bad things to happen to black people, like I think a lot of conservatives do. So I think that he just says the most, yeah, I do think that. I think he says the things that will get him elected. So I don't think that he has any personal grudges against most people. He just says the most popular thing. So I think like Ron DeSantis would be, be somebody that I think actually wants black people to be hurt. So by that standard, yeah, Donald Trump supports Black lives by leaps and bounds.
You think Donald Trump says the most popular thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Then why do so many people hate him?
He got elected as president.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He didn't win the popular vote. Neither time.
That's a
That's
liberal
what your
talking
side
point.
loves to say.
That's
Yeah.
a liberal talking
I'm
point.
helping you here. I'm trying to see the logic in this. Obviously, he says things to be elected as a politician very similarly to how Joe Biden did, except Joe Biden actually has a history of racism.
If he said things that people didn't like, he wouldn't have been our president.
So you like everything that Donald Trump says? You think everything he says is popular?
I love a lot of the things he says. I just love talking about his.
No, it's different. Coke, not
black people, and that's somehow comparable to the Donald Trump's treatment of the Central Park Five that were already exonerated. That wasn't a victim of the media. The media said they were done. They were exonerated in court. They weren't there.
As I understand it, the prosecutor of the five, he was a black guy, and so in being a black guy, he went and he looked at all the evidence and said these guys are guilty.
Black people can also be racist against other black people.
or just make mistakes.
So if anybody does anything you disagree with in regards to the Central Park Five, even if they themselves are a black person, then they're just a self-loathing black person. They're just a racist black person.
If they disagree
that
with me, they're
prosecutor was
racist.
doing his job.
That's my policy. If they disagree with me, they're racist.
I like that.
I
That's
think
so
Trump
unique.
is,
I
I
like
think
that's a
Trump
hilarious
has
policy.
shown a history of ignorant at best and racist at worst behavior. I didn't vote for him or Hillary because I just don't see him as a conservative hero. I don't even think he's a conservative.
Fake
personally.
conservative. I voted Trump in 2016, just so you all know. So I'm just saying.
So I need to I need you to elaborate on if people disagree with you, they're racist, just in general.
I was just kidding.
He's just, yeah.
you never know.
Just like
one
the
of those
hat.
kind of moments.
Sorry if I triggered you. I'm sorry.
You made
No,
a
I'm not
point.
sure. I just
You made
need
a
to know.
point
Okay.
a couple minutes.
I take responsibility for something. If I say he has responsibility for something, well, then you're right. But if I'm saying, well, maybe there are some people around him advising him falsely,
Dude,
it's infantilizing
He
him.
was the president.
There's no good way
He
to do
called the
this for him.
shots.
But if someone was
What are you
advising-
talking about?
So that's why we get a burr up our butt, because he had already done it.
Hopefully the devil's giving him amnesty.
True.
That's terrible.
No, that's base. Thank you.
Tasteless.
Ninth circle, baby.
My political beliefs have changed from the past.
I grew up in a conservative household, actually, in Ohio. And my parents were always pretty political, so I always stayed political. I was very religious as a teenager. Sometime during college and then afterwards, especially during COVID, my sister actually indoctrinated me into a more leftist position. And I overcorrected a little bit. I started becoming pretty cringy as far as sit down and let the minorities all talk, right? Don't say anything, don't speak over them, etc. They would, it was like the whole you can't speak over Candace Owens even if she's literally a Nazi kind of thing. So I stand by that. So I kind of leveled out, thankfully, and I'm less cringe now.
Did you?
I cringe.
This is leveled out. Imagine if we would have been here a year ago.
I mean, maybe I am being cringy.
I
Yeah, so I used to be a liberal. I voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016, as much as I regret that now. My family was pretty left-wing. Some of the people in my family were like radically left, like would refer to white people as blue-eyed, red-headed devils, things of that nature. And as I got older, I actually started being really outside.
When I was young, I used to jump for joy and say, oh yeah, Obama, black president, that's so amazing. He's the same color as me. But when I started to do more research, one of the biggest things I was confused about is, well, why is he a Democrat? What is a Democrat? I did more research about the Democrat Party. And sure, you guys are going to pop off about the head saying, oh, there's a party switch in the Southern strategy and all these things.
Which is true.
Which you may say is true. I don't believe it is true at all.
You're
I
wrong.
understand, you may think I'm wrong.
You are.
However,
They were going to raise the average family, or the average household in San Francisco was expected to pay $600,000 each with the $5 million per black person proposal that they had. And I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was repulsed by that because you have so many homeless veterans on the streets, and they were going to give black people a home for as little as $1 just for being black. Mind you, slavery wasn't even in California. So why that was going to be the case, like, I don't understand, but it's extremely unrealistic to think that the average family in San Francisco can afford that.
That's because Newsom wants to get reelected.
Okay, but you don't really care
Precisely.
about homeless veterans, right?
That's just
you
a
don't
laughable
support.
idea.
You don't know
I feel like
me.
all your arguments are
But-
ad
but you-
hominem.
but you're here
Literally
as a
every
conservative.
single one ad
You're here as a
hominem.
conservative. So what policies do you support for homeless veterans?
There's ways to address, I mean,
Specifically.
for homeless in general,
That's a whole different conversation.
yeah.
Okay, let's say that we didn't find a middle ground in there,
Yeah.
All right.
but that's a great ending note.
White liberals have a savior complex.
I have no shame about it. I have a savior complex. I will save you whether you like it or not. So that's just me.
Because we're just like you. We just have a different skin color. And to hear that you have to help me is offensive to me. I can do it on my own.
Well, we have to break down sometimes why these riots happen. You know, MLK once said that riots are the voice of the unheard.
So if you take pride in having like a white savior complex, what is it that you think that you're doing to save black people, and what is it that you think that you're saving black people from?
I am trying to make the world a better place through whatever means I can, and
But you're doing it on the backs of us.
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, I actually do. I feel like you want to be a savior and you're using me to make yourself feel good. That's what I'm
How am I
hearing.
hurting you?
You're not letting me have my own voice. You're not letting me speak.
How? You're speaking now?
No,
You're cutting her off.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I have to.
Yeah. Well, what's
like you
happening?
have to
I mean,
have
you're
the
speaking right now. You're speaking right now in this particular setting. But what you're saying is, like, you took it back to riots and so forth, and it makes it seem like the only way that we as black people can have a voice is by riots, and then you need to come along and you need to say, okay, poor little black child, let me help you. That's offensive to me, and I feel like you're making yourself feel good about trying to help us.
That happened decades ago, let alone something that happened centuries ago.
I've never seen a white person say, I personally feel guilty for slavery. Maybe
promise
they're
you I
out there, but I've never heard that.
Yeah, in second grade, when they taught us about slavery, almost every kid in my classroom would spend their entire time looking at black kids in that classroom. How was I supposed to not think, wow, these people are feeling guilty for something that they have no involvement in and I have no involvement
Every
in?
kid in my classroom understood the context.
People
so.
hate feeling uncomfortable. And
I just got one thing I wanted to bring up earlier about taxes, because you were saying that you had your job and you were talking about how like you get the tax every time and you're like seeing your tax go up. I worked in nursing homes in 2020 COVID. The last thing that was on my mind when I watched 60 and 70-year-olds on their deathbeds suffocated to death was taxes. I was worried about health care. I didn't give a shit about taxes in that time. So when I go to work every day, that's what I see. That's what I want to fix.
I see you once again elevating yourself above the rest of us, and particularly at me, a white man elevating himself above a black person.
He
called me a bootlicker.
Sorry.
He called me a bootlicker.
Oh no, I triggered them all. I'm sorry. I'm
I'm not
sorry.
triggered. I'm chilling, buddy.
Yes,
So what
you
I
are.
hope comes out
I'm
of this
chilling.
conversation is that we're all Americans, and because we're all Americans, we know that America has a bunch of problems, and I think every person here wants to solve the problems, and I think everybody's bringing what they have to the table with their ideas on how to get us to unify. This kind of just the right? But you got something in there. Hopefully, I mean, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you have something in there that's redeeming about you that would bring all of Americans together. So I hope that we end on the note of America.
UNITY.
I would like to say we're all made in the image of God, and so we're all have our inerrant worth just because we're made in His image, and we should treat each other as fellow image bearers, not just by the color of our skin. I mean, as Martin Luther King said.
He also did not like capitalism.